Waking up for Fajr, the dawn prayer, is more than just setting an alarm. It is a divine appointment with Allah, the most merciful, the one who created us, sustains us, and loves us more than anyone else ever could. When you make that conscious decision to leave your warm bed while the rest of the world sleeps, you are responding to a personal invitation from your Creator. This is not just about offering 2 units of prayer. This is about building a life of discipline, consistency, and connection with Allah. The Prophet Muhammad emphasized the importance of Fajr in so many ways. In one narration he said, "Whoever prays the 2 cool prayers, Fajr and Asr, will enter paradise." Said Bukhari, just think about that for a moment. Paradise, Jannah, eternal peace, joy beyond imagination, offered in return for consistency in prayer at these key times. Why? Because they require genuine effort, sincere intention, and a love for Allah that outweighs our love for comfort. Fajr prayer is not just another obligation, it's a test. It's easy to pray Dhuhr or Maghrib when we're awake, active, and going about our day. But Fajr, that's when your soul is tested. That's when your discipline, your taqwa, God consciousness, and your sincerity are revealed. Do you love Allah enough to get up before the sun rises? Do you value your akhirah enough to sacrifice sleep for just a few moments of standing before your Lord? And what a beautiful time it is, the stillness of the morning, the silence, the peace. It's as if the world pauses, giving you a chance to be alone with your Lord. No noise, no distractions, just you and Allah. The angels descend during this time. The Quran calls it a time that is ever witnessed and witnessed by the noble angels who record your good deeds. Imagine your name being written down in the early hours of the morning as one of the few who responded to the call of the Almighty. The Prophet didn't just teach this, he lived it. He would rise in the last third of the night, engage in deep worship, and prepare for Fajr with such devotion that it became a part of his identity. And he taught us to value this time. He even made dua for us. "O Allah, bless my ummah in their early mornings." Tirmidhi. He linked to Barakah, divine blessing, with the early part of the day. That means your business, your studies, your family affairs, your emotional health, everything can carry more blessing and success when you begin your day early, starting with the remembrance of Allah. We have to ask ourselves, how often do we miss Fajr because we were up late doing meaningless things, scrolling through social media, watching videos, wasting time? And then we complain that our days feel empty, unproductive, and disconnected. The answer is simple. Start your day with Allah, and you'll see how your entire life begins to shift. You'll feel more focused, more fulfilled, and more connected to your purpose. And it's not just about prayer. Waking up early teaches you discipline. It gives you time for reflection, for Quran, for planning your day in a calm and mindful way. It protects you from laziness, from wasting your most productive hours. It's a habit of successful people, and more importantly, it's the habit of the Prophet. Don't be discouraged if it's difficult at first. Every journey starts with struggle. The reward is worth the effort. Start by making sincere intention before you sleep. Ask Allah to help you wake up. Set your alarm, sleep early if you can. And when you wake up, don't delay. Say Bismillah, get up, and go to make wudu. That first moment may be tough, but by the time you finish your prayer, your soul will feel awake, your heart will feel lighter, and you'll know you answered the most beautiful call of the day. And remember, each morning you rise for Fajr, you are rewriting your story. You are building a legacy of devotion. You are joining the ranks of the believers who prioritize their relationship with Allah above their comfort. This is how we change, one early morning at a time. The early hours of the morning are filled with a type of blessing that many people overlook. In the quiet of dawn, when the world is still and peaceful, there lies a divine gift that the Prophet Muhammad pointed us to with clear and loving words. He said, "O Allah, bless my ummah in their early mornings." Tirmidhi. This dua is not just a wish, but a spiritual truth. There is Barakah, a unique kind of divine increase and goodness in the early part of the day. When we begin our mornings early, especially with remembrance of Allah, we are stepping into this blessed space that was prayed for by our beloved Prophet himself. Barakah is not something you can measure in numbers. It is not about how many hours you have in a day, but how meaningful and effective those hours become. A person who wakes up early, performs Fajr prayer, recites some Quran, makes dua, and plans their day mindfully, may achieve in a few hours what others may not accomplish in an entire day. That's the power of Barakah. It multiplies your time, your energy, and your efforts in ways that can't be explained by logic alone. It is a divine gift that flows into your life quietly but powerfully. When we wake up late, we often find ourselves rushing, skipping breakfast, feeling mentally foggy, missing Fajr, or starting the day with a sense of anxiety and pressure. But contrast that with the person who wakes up early. They start their day with Allah, with clarity and with purpose. They pray calmly, reflect, maybe even go for a walk or spend a few moments with nature. That peaceful start sets the tone for everything that follows. The Prophet knew this. He saw the early morning as a time of opportunity, not just spiritually but practically. In fact, scholars have noted that many of the Prophet's companions, who were incredibly successful in both religious and worldly matters, were early risers. They used the early morning hours to engage in learning, earning, and serving. Business owners among the companions would begin their trade early, and many reported that they saw more profit and smoother dealings when they did so. This is not a coincidence. When you work with Barakah, things fall into place. Obstacles become easier to navigate, and your efforts are rewarded in ways you didn't expect. Even today, many of the world's most successful people talk about waking up early. They use those quiet hours to reflect, read, exercise, or plan. But for the believer, the early morning is not just a time for worldly tasks, it's a time to feed the soul. Before the distractions of the world begin to pull at us, the morning gives us a window to connect with Allah in a sincere and undisturbed way. Imagine starting your day with Quran in your heart and dhikr on your tongue. That spiritual nourishment gives you strength to face whatever comes your way. Let's not forget that waking up early also gives you control over your day. Instead of reacting to things as they come, you take the lead. You decide how your day will begin, and that decision sets the direction for everything that follows. It builds discipline, and that discipline begins to touch other areas of your life. You sleep better, you eat better, you become more focused, more present, and more grateful. And this habit doesn't just benefit your dunya, it prepares you for your akhirah. A heart that is trained to rise early is a heart that is less likely to miss prayers, more likely to seek forgiveness, and more likely to reflect on the deeper purpose of life. The early hours offer a sacred space for introspection, repentance, and sincere connection with your Creator. When you wake up before the sun, you're reminded of the resurrection, when all souls will rise. That daily rising from sleep can be a beautiful metaphor for preparing the soul for that final awakening. So when the Prophet made dua for us to have barakah in our mornings, he wasn't just giving us a tip for productivity. He was giving us a timeless secret to living a blessed life. It's a gift, a treasure that's available every single day, if only we choose to unlock it. All it takes is a little effort, a little discipline, and a lot of intention. And when we make that effort, Allah opens doors we never imagined. The early morning holds a special kind of silence. It's a time when the world is still, the distractions are minimal, and the mind is fresh. In Islam, we are taught that this peaceful window is not just an ideal time for physical activity or productivity, but also for building an emotional and spiritual strength. This is a time when the heart can connect with Allah in the most sincere and undisturbed way. And this connection, when nurtured daily, builds an inner strength that shields a person through the trials and stresses of life. When a believer rises early, especially for the purpose of worship or quiet reflection, they are feeding their soul before feeding their body. Before the phone rings, before the emails come in, before the chaos of the day begins, a person sits, perhaps in sujood, perhaps in dua, perhaps quietly reading Quran, and in that moment there is healing. The worries that have been weighing on the heart begin to lighten. The fears that seem overwhelming begin to fade. Why? Because the believer has started the day in the presence of Allah, the one who controls all things. The early morning becomes a time for spiritual clarity. You begin to see things differently. Problems that once seemed too big now feel manageable. Sadness becomes bearable. Hope is reignited. When you train your soul to seek Allah in the early hours, your soul begins to crave that meeting. You find yourself looking forward to Fajr, not as a task to check off, but as a moment of peace, a moment of mercy, a moment of love. And it is through these quiet acts of devotion that true emotional strength is built. Many people seek emotional strength by turning to therapy, self-help books, or motivational videos, and all of these can have benefit. But nothing compares to the strength that comes from building a personal, private connection with your Creator. When you wake up early and raise your hands in dua while the sky is still dark, you are speaking directly to the one who understands your pain better than anyone else. You are sharing your burdens with the one who never gets tired of hearing from you. And this builds resilience, because you know you are never alone. It is also a time when your heart is more responsive. The distractions that usually clutter your mind are still asleep. There are no urgent tasks pulling you in different directions. It's just you and your Lord. The sincerity of that moment is unmatched. The Prophet said our Lord descends to the lowest heaven during the last third of the night and says, "Who is calling upon me so that I may answer him? Who is asking from me so that I may give him? Who is seeking my forgiveness so that I may forgive him?" Bukhari and Muslim. This is not just a narration, it is an open invitation to healing, to growth and to mercy. When you make a habit of rising early for Allah, your emotional responses begin to change. You become more patient. You become more aware. You begin to handle stress with calm. That's because the early morning, when used correctly, becomes a training ground for the soul. It's not just about prayer, it's about building a mindset that begins with submission to Allah. That submission creates clarity, and clarity gives you the emotional balance you need throughout the day. We often feel overwhelmed because we start the day with noise. We reach for our phones, dive into social media, or rush into tasks before we've even had a moment to reflect. But the one who begins with dhikr, with Quran, with gratitude, such a person begins with light. That light, no matter how dark the rest of the day becomes, remains within them. It is the light of faith, of certainty, of knowing that Allah is with you. Building emotional and spiritual strength is not something that happens overnight. It requires consistency. But even 5 minutes each morning, just 5 minutes of sincere remembrance, can reshape your entire mindset. Start small. After praying Fajr, sit quietly, reflect, make dua, breathe deeply and remember that you are alive, you are guided, and Allah has given you another chance. That simple act of gratitude can ground your emotions and uplift your soul. In the early morning, there is something special waiting for every believer. A moment of strength, a moment of clarity, a moment of deep connection with the one who created you. And once you begin to taste that sweetness, you will find that nothing else compares. Emotional strength doesn't come from having no problems. It comes from knowing where to turn when the problems come. And the one who turns to Allah in the early hours is never left empty-handed. Time is one of the greatest gifts that Allah has given us, and yet it is one of the most misused and neglected. Every second that passes is a part of our life that will never return. As believers, we must understand that time is not just a convenience. It is an amana, a trust given to us by Allah, and we will be questioned about how we spent it. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Send the feet of the son of Adam shall not move on the day of resurrection until he is asked about 5 things, his life and how he spent it." Tirmidhi. That alone should be enough to make us reflect deeply on how we spend our mornings, how we use the early hours that hold immense potential and value. Sleeping away the morning, especially past the time of Fajr, is not simply a missed opportunity, it's a loss that cannot be recovered. When the sun rises and you haven't yet risen for your Creator, it's not just your day that starts off late, your soul begins with a kind of emptiness. And that spiritual void then spills over into your energy, your motivation, your mood, and your productivity. When you ignore the trust of time, you feel the consequences in all aspects of life. It's not a coincidence that those who are regular with Fajr often feel more focused and calm throughout their day. They are living in sync with the rhythm that Allah intended for them. Allah swears by time in the Quran, and by time. Indeed, mankind is in loss, except for those who believe and do righteous deeds. Surah Al-Asr. The scholars explain that when Allah swears by something, it means it holds great importance. Allah is drawing our attention to the fact that every passing moment is a witness over us. Either it's in our favor, or it's against us. There is no third option. Every morning that we let slip by in heedlessness is a part of our record, one that we'll have to account for. Think about it. When you delay your start to the day, when you wake up without Fajr, without dhikr, without any remembrance of Allah, your entire day begins with a sense of being out of alignment. It's as though your heart is playing catch-up for the rest of the day. But if you begin with awareness, if you rise with the intention to honor the amana of time, you take control, you live with purpose, you live with accountability. That mindset builds not only discipline but also deepens your taqwa. Islam teaches us to be people of action, people who make the most of their time and resources. The Prophet said, "Can take advantage of 5 before 5, your youth before your old age, your health before your illness, your wealth before your poverty, your free time before you become busy, and your life before your death. Hakim. One of the 5 things he mentioned is in free time. How many of us waste our early mornings on sleep or useless scrolling, convincing ourselves that we'll be more productive later in the day? But time doesn't wait. And the truth is, what you do in your first hour after waking often sets the tone for the rest of your day. When you begin your day by worshipping Allah, you are acknowledging that time belongs to Him. You are honoring the amanah. You are putting the Creator first before the creation. And in return, Allah places barakah in your time. He helps you get more done in less time. He puts peace in your heart, clarity in your mind, and energy in your body. This is the power of using time the way Allah intended. On the Day of Judgment, when we stand before Allah, we will not be asked how much we earned, how much we slept, or how many times we pressed the snooze button. We will be asked how we used the time we were gifted. Did we begin our days in obedience or in heedlessness? Did we value the mornings that were filled with angels recording our deeds? Did we treat time like a treasure or like something disposable? Every day is a new amana. Every sunrise is a fresh beginning. Don't waste it. Don't sleep through your chance to gain reward, to find peace, to draw closer to Allah. Wake up early, not just with your body, but with your heart and your intention. Treat time like the precious gift it is, and it will work in your favor in both this world and the next. Discipline is one of the most valuable qualities a believer can have. It is the ability to do what needs to be done, even when it's difficult, uncomfortable, or inconvenient. In Islam, discipline is not just about structure or productivity, it is about consistency in worship, and control over desires and obedience to Allah, even when no one is watching. One of the most effective and powerful ways to build discipline is by waking up early. When you train your body and soul to rise before the world does, especially for the sake of Allah, you are laying the foundation for a life of purpose and self-mastery. That discipline in your daily routine becomes the doorway to discipline in your deen. Waking up early for Fajr or even earlier to pray Tahajjud is not easy. The bed is warm, the world is quiet, and sleep calls you to stay just a little longer. But every time you resist that call and rise for prayer, you are building spiritual muscle. You are telling your nafs, your lower self, you are not in charge, I serve Allah. That act, repeated consistently, transforms your character. It turns laziness into effort, excuses into action, and distraction into focus. And when that discipline becomes a habit, it starts influencing every area of your life. A person who has trained themselves to rise for Fajr every day is not just someone who performs a ritual. They are someone who lives with structure. They are someone who has learned the value of starting the day with purpose. That kind of discipline naturally spills over into how you eat, how you work, how you speak, and how you use your time. You become more aware, more intentional, and more in control of your life. You are not just reacting to the world, you are leading yourself towards something greater, something eternal. Islam places a strong emphasis on routine and order. The 5 daily prayers are perfectly spaced throughout the day, creating a rhythm that balances our worldly and spiritual lives. But to remain consistent in those prayers, especially Fajr, requires discipline. That's why the Prophet Muhammad said, "Then the most beloved deeds to Allah are those done consistently, even if they are small." Bukhari and Muslim. It's not about doing something grand once, it's about doing something meaningful every day, over and over, even when it's hard. That is the path to true success, both in the dunya and in the akhirah. We live in a time where distractions are everywhere, and instant gratification is the norm. Discipline is seen as restrictive, when in reality, it's the key to freedom. A person who is disciplined is not controlled by their desires. They don't waste their time chasing temporary pleasure. Instead, they live with purpose, and that purpose protects them from regret. Waking up early is one of the best ways to take back control. When you begin your day with prayer and worship, you are not only showing gratitude to Allah, you are taking charge of your time, your energy, and your intentions. Even non-Muslim thinkers and entrepreneurs recognize the power of early mornings. They speak about waking up before sunrise to exercise, plan their day, and work on personal growth. But as believers, our motivation goes beyond productivity. We rise early not just for worldly success, but for the pleasure of our Creator. We seek His guidance, His forgiveness, and His closeness before we seek anything else. And when Allah sees that we are willing to leave our sleep for His sake, He puts strength in our hearts, blessing in our efforts, and serenity in our lives. And the beauty of it is that Allah knows how difficult it is. He knows the sacrifice, He knows the effort. That's why the reward is so great. The Prophet said, Give glad tidings to those who walk to the mosques in the darkness, for they will be given full light on the day of resurrection. Tirmidhi. Waking up early in the darkness, whether at home or in the masjid, is not just a worldly habit. It is an act that earns eternal light in the next life. So if you want to become stronger in your deen, start with discipline in your dunya. Set the intention to wake up early. Make dua before you sleep. Go to bed on time. Train your body to rise for Allah. It won't be easy in the beginning, but over time, it becomes a part of who you are. And that discipline, once rooted in your heart, becomes a powerful tool that helps you walk steadily on the path to Jannah.